In this tutorial, you'll be learning how to approach an airport for landing. You're flying in a Piper Cub about 5 miles northwest of the Eagle Creek Airport, which is directly ahead of you. Adjust the throttle to maintain about 70 miles per hour for the approach. The runway in use right now at Eagle Creek is runway 3, which runs right to left. To land, you first need to line up with the runway. Waypoint markers have been placed to suggest a good flight path for the landing. Remember to look around, move the hat switch on top of your joystick, or press and hold the spacebar, then move the mouse. Turn to the right now to follow the markers. The mission compass in the upper left corner of your screen will point to each marker in sequence. Look to the left. You should be flying parallel to the runway as we fly past the airport to set up for landing. At this point in an approach, you would normally slow the aircraft down to prepare for landing. This Cub is slow enough that you don't need to slow down. Just keep flying at about 70 miles per hour. At this point, we're flying on what is called the downwind leg of the traffic pattern. Now make a gentle turn to the left onto the base leg and follow the markers toward the runway. Try to maintain 70 miles per hour throughout the turn. Great. Now turn onto final and line up with the last 3 markers. Adjust the throttle to slow down to 60 miles per hour. The runway is at an altitude of 794 feet. Adjust the throttle to slow to 55 miles per hour. As you near the runway, reduce the throttle all the way and very gently pull back on the stick to level off. Stay as close to the ground as possible without landing. Eventually, the wheels will touch down. You're doing well. Keep it steady. You're going too slow. Push the throttle forward a bit to speed up and gently push forward on the stick so you don't climb. You're almost there. Reduce the throttle all the way to idle and get ready to land. Great, you're on the ground. Coast to a stop or apply the brakes. You've done it. You've successfully landed. In this tutorial, you'll be learning how to take off and land on very short mountain airstrips with tall trees nearby. It's very important to use the flaps during short takeoffs and landings. Flaps serve two purposes. They generate more lift, and they cause drag, which slows the plane down. Before taking off, you should extend the flaps one notch. In this tutorial, you'll be learning how to take off and land on very short mountain airstrips with tall trees nearby. It's very important to use the flaps during short takeoffs and landings. Flaps serve two purposes. They generate more lift, and they cause drag, which slows the plane down. Before taking off, you should extend the flaps one notch by pressing the F7 key. If you want to watch how the flaps change the look of your wing, you can switch to Spot View by pressing the F11 key. Press F9 to return to Virtual Cockpit View. Try to take off when you reach 55 knots and climb out at 60 knots, which will give you the best angle of climb in this aircraft. Pull back now to lift off. Great takeoff! Now that you're in the air, retract the flaps by pressing the F6 key. Your landing spot will be the Lower Loon airstrip to the south of your present position. It's very short and surrounded by hills, so it will be difficult to land on if you approach the runway from the wrong direction. The best route to the Lower Loon is to follow the river valley rather than flying straight over the hills. This will allow for a shallower approach for landing. You can follow the waypoint markers if you want. We're about halfway to Lower Loon. This might be a good time to go over some bush flying tips. In real bush flying, you should always overfly the runway before landing to check the runway condition and to look for obstacles which could contribute to an unsafe landing. Even in Flight Simulator, it's a good idea to inspect a landing site before committing. Many of the mountain strips in this area are one-way in, one-way out approaches, and you only get one chance at the landing with no possibility of a go-around. If you need to turn around within the confines of a valley or a canyon, you can perform a canyon turn by slowing the aircraft down and dropping the flaps. With this technique, you can minimize your turn radius as long as you keep the power up and stay above stall speed. As you approach Lower Loon, start slowing down early in preparation to land, or to execute a canyon turn if you need to turn around. Now that you're getting close to the airport, maintain 55 knots and fully extend the flaps by pressing the F8 key. Remember to increase power to compensate for the increased drag, or you might stall. When approaching at more than 60 knots, you might not be able to stop before you reach the trees at the end of the runway. Go around and try it again. It's best to approach the airstrip at a shallow angle, using flaps and power to come in slowly. Try lining up again at a lower altitude.